Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and everybody. Welcome to the local hotel here in the garage. This is the Local Heroes. My name's Both Gordon. I'm a music journalist, and roughly every Thursday here, 117 of them, I present this year called Local Heroes with a beloved guest who is of varying locality. But if they've been to Fremantle or played in it, they're a local hero in my book. So would you please welcome this week's guest, Wil Thomas. Thanks for having me. How do you do? This has been a little while in the making. I first met you in at Blues at Bridgetown.
Yeah.
I think it was November 2023, and Phoebe Cork introduced us, and you were playing the festival that year. And so it's great to have you here. That you messaged me saying I'm just going to be in town following now. So it's like, let's go, let's do it. So we only kind of announced it on Monday.
Yeah.
But it's great to have you. So firstly, just on that, how was the Nanup Festival for you? Because Nanup in general, like all festivals and all sorts of musical and commercial ventures, did have a struggle in the last few years and had to cancel. Was it 2022, I think, or 2 years in a row maybe, because of the kind of the troubles brought by COVID, and there's bounced back in the last 2 years. How'd your weekend go?
That was awesome. I've been really fortunate that I played Nanup like 6 times. And this one was by far the best. Not that any of them were crap by any means, but this one was it just really flew. Every act was stellar, and we played a couple of big stages, and it was just humming. It was just a fantastic weekend, and you always come away having met some incredible artists or seen some incredible artists. And this weekend came away just my bucket really full.
Yeah.
And just wanting to go and hide away and write music the rest of my life, following on from now. And I sold a strict ton of merch, which is a bit unusual. That also floated my boat as well.
Housewarming and what sort of mode did you play in lineup?
Rock and roll.
Yeah, rock and roll.
Yeah. So I've often played with like various pickup artists. And it's often worked, or it's always worked, I should say. But this time we had a full band. We worked very hard to reverse it, because it's so quick. You get up there and you got literally got 10 minutes to get your stuff on stage, your line check, and then it's already eating into your set time. And it's always hectic and pandemonium, and often band members are flying into different areas of the country. This time we'd all got there on Thursday, so a day early, and just hunkered down and started rehearsing. Had it pretty tight by the time it was time to play, and sort of jumped up and got into it. And it was a 5-piece, and so we went pretty hard, and it came off and it worked. Yeah, it was cool. When I say rock and roll, it was just kind of the rock and roll version of what these albums are. It was kind of more what we'd done in the studio. We tried to reproduce it on stage, and I played an electric guitar for the first time pretty much during the whole set as well. And it was just acoustic. So it was fantastic. And I had Elwood Gray playing mandolin. He's this gun for hire from Brew, who is just like this embodiment of Townes Van Zandt crossed with Stevie Ray Vaughan. And he was playing mandolin, so it was like, you didn't have to worry about being nervous or because everyone was just a bit in, it was shredding away and cool.
Yeah.
It was awesome.
When you've got 3 albums and probably new songs up your sleeve, and you're doing a festival like that, to some people who know you and others who don't, what dictates what your song choice is?
Well, we played the first night was a really late gig, so everyone was very drunk. And it was that euphoria of a first night at a festival. So we just kind of took the harder edge songs. And we only had a 35-minute set. So it was like, there's a lot of rhetoric involved when I play live to a big audience. Most of my set the story as well as song.
Yeah.
But I'm shocking like that. Like Guy Gass and I went to Melbourne to open this concert called Kindling once, and I was so caught up in the moment that we ended up playing like 3 songs. And so this time, Phoebe Cork plays violin in this band. She's got clock, so she'll say, "You've got 3 minutes," or So I didn't talk about first. So we just played, and just went song after song after song, and which was great, and it really came across. But I kind of also felt quite lonely. I felt like there was an element missing from that, but more of the harder edge songs, just to power through it and get off there. Just to talk about this kind of thing is kind of arrogant, really. It's hard to talk about playing live music without getting all a bit of a wanker on the spots of big festival stages. But it was a real buzz. It was a real buzz to walk off of those gigs.
But they're important, aren't they? These festivals like Nan Up and Bridgetown. There's a sort of
So important.
festivals all around the country, and I work at Blues at Bridgetown, and I sort of see all these sort of bands that are sort of they're not on the radio, but they are these kind of household names in this completely different kind of way to the people that go to these festivals, or they don't know them, but the people that go to the festivals are really open-minded, ready to kind of like embrace something and go, I'm on that, I'm with that.
And I reckon you're dead right. You really are. There's this group of aficionados who just like, they go to Fairbridge. I've really noticed this when you meet people who've got their programs circled and they'll leave halfway through your set, and you don't take offense at it because they've defined everything. We'll go see, Lauren Cape for 15 minutes, but then we can't stay any longer because we've got to go and see Mama Kill and this other tune. So don't take offense. They've got it all worked out. But Susan O'Neill is this incredible Irish artist who's playing tomorrow at Cadogo. If anyone's around, to blow your mind to see her play. She said this beautiful thing during one of her sets, that this gathering is thousands and thousands of years old, and how we all need it. And one thing that really resonated with all of us, I think, in the camaraderie circle at Nemath, in the campgrounds and afterwards, was everyone was smiling and laughing. And the reason was because there was just this perpetual joy being shared by the fact that everyone was gathered and playing music and communicating each other. Trump and the rest of it was a million miles away. We need that gathering of souls. Storytelling is the most ancient of communication. And you've obviously lost it, but people still yearn for it. So they're attracted to festivals like Fairbridge and Bridgetown. They'll always go because it's that connection.
Yeah,
It's just so gorgeous.
just when you said about Trump and everything is so far away, I went to see PJ Harvey at Kings Park on Tuesday night, and it was just sort of like the last album, I Inside the Old Year Dying, and it sprung from a poem that she'd written 2 years before in a Dorset dialect. This is all very English about a adolescent girl coming into the mature world, but in the context of the woods or a forest. So, and it was this really ethereal kind of thing. There were like insects and pastoral and animal sounds coming through 20 minutes before she went on and during the set at different times, and or in tree-lined imagery on the video, whilst the real forest is surrounding everything, and animal noise is coming over the soundtrack between songs or during those songs, and all the ducks coming up on the hedge to look. And it was all this kind of like, there's no outside world, there's no sort of, dance on Gino Reinhardt's grave, but that's Peter Garrett's thing, right? Or, talking about the mining companies or what's happening in US politics. It was, that's over there. Now we're coming into the forest, and she's just a beautiful ethereal entertainer. And that was sort of amazing. It was in another way, it was kind of, was it going like this? It's like that. It's merging and going, I guess. Which I think is, there's all sorts of essence of music, and there is a calling things out and when they're wrong, but there's also the artist, the other angle, like kind of like, this is the fantasy artistic world that I've created and you are in it.
Yeah.
And I think there's room for both,
And so did she, talk about that during the set, or was it just
No, the only thing was like at the end, she doesn't speak between songs. Only just very gracious thank you at the end for being. But yeah, it's all about kind of the creation of the moment.
wow?
The sort of ethereality
Yeah, right.
thing. So, but sorry, yeah, that just reminded me of the thing of how you can be in something, and the outside world is deservedly just pushed away for that moment, which is
And what a setting to bring that to life.
yeah,
Yeah, I get that. I really get it. And so, yeah, I think coming away from that festival, probably a big part of that why everybody go off on it so much was because of the outside world currently getting rightful, so importantly, feeding everyone's souls,
yeah.
puckles. Yes.
So tonight, apart from some answers to some questions, as I say, what will we hear from you? You're a remarkable storyteller. So how do you pick from the vine?
How do you pick from the what?
Vine.
Oh, what a great question. I did a songwriting workshop at Nanuk Besant, which was the first one I've ever done. And I went around the artist breakfast tent with them at a book asking all of these sort of more higher achieved artists than myself, oh, what's your method? You know, they're all fighting in their results. But I decided to go with the story that people were like, have you got a pile of pens and papers and guitars? And no, I don't have any of that. So I just decided to talk about my process, and it kind of came off. And I think to answer your question, I kind of try and channel a story wherever it is in me and whatever's coming through. It's generally autobiographically. There's a couple that I have written outside of myself, like Dan Hall, which is from the last record. I was able to deliberately sit down and write that over a period of weeks because it was completely separate from me. But for me to pick from the vine is, it sounds very fruity, but it's a whimsical thing. I don't know where it comes from. Yeah. And for years it confused me that I couldn't nail it. But then I started to see that my heroes were much the same. And I thought maybe I was onto something. And then I started exploring that avenue. Like Neil Young is a great one who says, if you haven't got anything, then don't try. You'll just find out. You know, and then you look at Nick Cave's Rejection led to ATV, and it's about the muse and how fragile she is. Yeah. So when I pick from the vine, I realized that my mind has to be in a really unfluttered way, and it has to be I have to be emotionally feeling something. Is like I'm either coming out of the darkness, or I'm really hungover, or I'm coming out of an illness, where there has to be a mild euphoria, and it also has to be early in the morning, and there has to be generally coffee involved and a veranda step. And I know that these are the things that are the cushion, if you like, that I must sit on and wait for vertical pass. So I'll just I'll sit there and just play something.
Yeah, I think it would be. We've spoken a fair bit already, so maybe do two songs.
Two songs in a row.
In a row. So we were keeping the balance.
Right.
Okay. Robert Plant said to bring the balance back.
That's right. I'll tell you a story. I used to work for this man in Broome. Oh, for those of you who don't know, I live in Broome, Western Australia, the old pearling town. And a lot of my teeth cutting had come from there. And I worked for this filmmaker, crocodile farmer called Malcolm Douglas for many years. And he took me into the remotest part of the Kimberley, and I saw things that very few, if any, white man had ever seen. And I got to experience a heart of my country that no one else would get to see. And when I finished my employ with him, I had my family of sorts were building this eco resort way off in the Kimberley coast, and I went to work with them off and on for a few years. But there was a river, it's still there, called the Lawley River, and it's the most magnificent cathedral that runs off Admiralty Gulf, and it winds its way through this mangrove system and across this impenetrable rock bar. And once you get past this rock bar, you end up in this area of the river that's like Conan Doyle's Lost World. And the wildlife up there is just insane. There's brolgas and crocodiles and barramundi and all manner of amazing things. And I wrote this song for that place. It's to understand the beauty of nature when you're immersed in it, and its absolute majesty was for me the embodiment of what it was all about. And so I wrote this song on the second album. And a bit of a precursor to this, when I worked at the Kimberley Coastal Camp, I also worked for ABC radio here in Perth. And I was making a freelance documentary for them. And for an excuse to get to the coastal camp, I offered to record wildlife recordings because they didn't have any really remote Kimberley wildlife recordings of black cockatoos and things like that. So they loaded me up with all of this recording equipment, and I headed off for the coastal camp. And I went up the Lawley River, and this flight of brolgas came in over me. It was the most incredible sound of them coming over, and I battled to turn on the old Nagra tape recorder, aimed it at this flock of brolgas, and I just got them, and they landed in a billabong about 1 kilometre up the river, and I trudged off through the bush thinking I would be able to capture more of them calling. But by the time I got there, they'd all buggered off except for 2 that were standing on the riverbank, and I approached them with the boom mic to try and get some noises, and they walked off. Very casually, they walked off, so I'm following them really closely, and they just kept looking behind at me and then walking faster, and I was coming up behind and going, "Fucking honk, you bastard." But they wouldn't. But I did catch a snippet of it, and on the second album where this song is recorded, the intro to this song features the sound of those brolgas landing on the distant billabong of the Lawley River. And this is it. And I will dedicate this to the memory of Malcolm Douglas, who was a lunatic, but a man that I probably learned more from than anyone else. And although he took me to the edge 3 times in my life, I wouldn't trade a second of him.
Falls in the Minjal, Ramani knows country so well, taking on the wind, she flies to Rail Creek. I see her now in the stories I tell. An old man crocodile swims through my stories. He knows the river like he knows my fears. by the light of the fire. Together they sit on the banks of my dreams. Roll girl dances up through the long wet grass, 'cause the knock 'em down winds, they're waiting to come. 'Cause one Janine been singing for many months. When he sings, the rivers will run down through the gorges of my memory, and out into the gulf of my dreams. My heart yearns for the heart of my country. My heart yearns for the lonely heart of my dreams. Turn to clay, carry them up to the sheetrock, bury them all people way, for the wind blows from the east, sets my spirit free, and my ashes will ride on the breeze. And the lonely runs to the sea. Thank you very much.
So I don't know if you know what's happening in the Kimberley at the moment, but there's this organization called Black Mountain who want to frack the Kimberley en masse, and there's a campaign in place to stop it. It just seems to actually never stop. The Kimberley is a rare jewel, full of magic and full of wonder. There's more known about the moon than there is about the Kimberley coast, but they all level their guns at it and they all want to come. And a couple of weeks ago I was invited to play at this frat-free event down the road here by John Butler, and it was an amazing event, and it relit my fire for protest. And I was involved for many years in the campaign to stop Woodside from building the world's largest industrial precinct on the Kimberley coast. And one day on the Minari Road, there was these cops that were sent up to move the hippies along, which was us, that were forming a blockade, and had been a very successful blockade for many months. And little Colin Barnett sent his stormtroopers up to break up the barricade and rid the Minari Road of the protesters. And a lot of these cops, these riot force cops, were just kids, and you could see it in their face that they just did not know what the hell they were doing there at all. But what you could also see was amongst them, you could see those guys who just loved it. That's the whole reason for their being, was to be there. But this song is written for the other ones. As I explained at the Frack Free gig, if you ever find yourself chained to a bulldozer in protest of what's about to happen, and there's two of these officers that are all coming towards you, you'll notice that one has a grin on his face because this is what his life's cut out for, and the other one will have a look on his face that says, I didn't sign up for this at all. And that's what this song was written about. It's called The Mercenary's Tale.
Well, I come out of Duntrue to enter in the fight and make my silver dollar and try to set some wrongs to rights. They called on me for justice, said I was the man. I took an oath of liberty to protect and defend. Somewhere the road got crooked and I lost my way. Now I'm dancing with the devil for $2,000 a day. They call me a mercenary in the streets around Budapest, like a Roland Thompson gunner. I guess I lost my head. Don't call on me for justice, as I sold out to the man. And I would do anything that I could if I could just buy it back again. And don't put flowers in my rifle, I lost over my eyes. And I did away with my conscience, and I took on that lie. National Guard. Well, I'm keeping law and order from the student overpower. Well, Kent State University or why, but I don't know. But Neil Young, he told me, for dead down in Ohio. The albatross in flight, gather generations, well, they're fighting against the pipe. Will you steal my nets and you take my boats? Well, the old man holds his ground, but I've seen it all before, old man. It looks like you are going down. So don't call on me for justice, 'cause I sold out to the man. And I would do anything that I could if I could just buy it back again. Don't guns shining blue. Well, I see a woman once I loved, and she loved me just the same. But now she's asking me for justice, and I'm slapping her in shame. So don't call me for justice, 'cause I sold out to the man. And I would do anything that I could if I could just buy it back again. And don't put flowers in my rifle, I passed over my eyes. And I did away with your liberty when I took on their lies. Cheers.
Top shelf. Sorry,
It's like Denton, isn't it?
thanks. So like you've been based in Broome for many years, but like, tell me, where did the boy meet the world?
Oh, metaphorically or all over?
Physically, philosophically.
Yeah. That's. I'm really glad you asked that because I've been wanting to just say that for so long. I think the penny drop moment was when I was 14, in a bath on a Friday night in Surrey, England, and I was listening to Rose Tattoo, a stereo cast from the Reading Rock Festival, Town Road.
I was going to ask where you were born, but it sounds right. Okay, it sounds I've been like a second water birth.
Yeah, that's right. No, I was born in Wales, and my mother was a television journalist, and we came out to Australia when I was 6. Stayed here for several years, and then we went back to Wales, and then she took off to Tasmania, and I ended up in London, and then came back to Australia when I was 14, coming on 15.
Wow. But so we'll dial back to the bath.
Yeah.
And Rose Tattoo.
Rose Tattoo.
Sorry, that's not one of the more common moments of discovering rock and roll.
Well, I probably, it was a lot earlier than that. I remember listening to The Sweet when I was 6. I remember somehow something got me then, but I didn't really know what it was. And just before I left Australia when I was 12, Kiss were really breaking. Remember that Plague?
Never heard of them.
You remember that Plague though when Dynasty came out and they toured? You would have been there. Did you go?
Yeah, I went.
Yeah. Well, I left just before that.
Right, I just finished playing in the Kiss tribute band 6 months ago.
With the Ibanez Iceman.
Yeah, and the Flying Avec.
And Flavie, yeah. So it was always there, but I think the Rose Tattoo in the bathtub moment was when I was like, I really want to do this.
Right, can you remember a particular song? We Can't Be Beaten or Bad Boy for Love?
I think it was Scarred for Life.
Scarred for Life.
Yeah, I think it was Scarred.
And Held Alive.
But also there was this Australian thing because I really missed Australia deeply, and there were these bad balls from Australia were in my bath, and it was like, this is
No, wait, they would never have taken a bath.
Yeah. And also I was obsessed with AC/DC in that time as well. Back in Black had just come out.
Yeah.
And I was actually in that school in Surrey. I was surrounded by music. I had the very good fortune. I always remember that I learned nothing in high school in Surrey except for 2 things, which was how to bend tubular steel, and that my English teacher was the same teacher who taught Paul Weller, and she said that it was her greatest achievement, and I hung on to her every word. And the Jam were a really big deal, or that they'd broken up by then, but there was music everywhere around this. Rick Parfitt from Status Quo lived down the road, and his niece was in my class, and I remember she was this unattainable goddess, obviously. And I remember walking home with her, and he pulled up in this blue Porsche and picked her up and took off here. It was like, there's a rock star moment, you know. It was all around, and I remember I hadn't really seen any real rock and roll since school bands. And the other thing I remember thinking was that if you ever saw a rock and roll band live, whoever it was, you know, it might be Zeppelin or whoever, you would never be able to hear the lead vocal. It was just a given that they'll all be in a bliss. Well, it's just because I've never heard good sound, and you heard school bands in the auditorium, just loud rock and roll guitars and no vocals. But so I was kind of surrounded by that rock and roll idea, and it started to grow with me. And I remember when AC/DC toured and they played the Hammersmith Odeon on a Tuesday night, and my father wouldn't let me go, but my friend Zach at school, he went with his brother, and he bought me back this badge of AC/DC. That was it. And I was deeply distraught that I couldn't get to see them.
Was that the Back in Black tour?
It was the Back in Black tour, yeah, at Hammersmith Odeon. When I came out to Australia, the first rock and roll band I saw was Deep Purple at the Entertainment Centre, and then I
In 1984.
in 1984.
Total Extraneous.
That was,
Nice.
yeah. And that Dry Eyes and Trilogy supported them. Yeah, it was like, this is a church.
Yeah.
Rock and roll is a church. And
How old?
and I was in year 11. I think it's 16 or 17. Man, yeah, mind blowing. It probably was shit, actually, but for me, it was incredible. I just remember the Dried Ice pouring over the stage, and they opened the highway star. That's just that.
Well, I mean, it's kind of averaging, and the apex there was probably Richie Blackmore wasn't around much longer with them. Maybe a couple of years I that one. Yeah, I would call that like they had come back.
Yeah, that's right. They've been 10 years. And luckily for us, but they used Perth as a guinea pig because they had the tour. So they're like, well, we'll open in Perth at the other end of the world. And it was a great gig. Were you at that one?
You know what? I didn't go to that one. I wanted to. I was 18, and I can't quite remember. I mean, I think I saw Eric Clapton there a week later.
Yeah.
And I'd seen Robert Plant there earlier the same year. So it was kind of like a spoilt for British rock singer millionaires at that time.
Yeah. And so, I had a deep, deep love for rock and roll and music, and then just the high school thing and guitars. And
Who was it what you heard on the radio and the likes of AC/DC, Deep Purple, that's steered? I was going to say steered you to it, or was there someone who was kind of handing you a tour? Like, check this out.
yeah, that's a great question. There was a guitarist in the Perth Hills, so I lived in the Perth Hills, and my good friend Steve Jones, who went on to form Kill Devil Hills, we had the same guitar teacher, and go and have lessons with him. Joe, I can't remember his name. We just teaches the blues, and we just wanted to learn. He had know, but anyway, that aside, there was a guitarist in the Hills by the name of Brad Sims, whose godmother was Jimmy Page's house girl. And Page used to send in the fares, like old Zeppelin tour posters and plectrums, and Brad was the most gifted guitar player. And he turned me on to Thin Lizzy, and in particular the song Emerald, which with the Julian guitars. Like harmonies, yeah. And Brad was the most gifted guitar player ever, and he taught me a fair bit that I couldn't keep up with him. And he, because it was so, I don't want to say backward, but very, we didn't have much opportunity, I guess. We had cheap guitars, and someone might have an amplifier that we might borrow, but Brad took off to London to try and make it, and came back, and then ultimately moved to Sydney to try and make it over there. And as far as I know, he gave up music in the end, which was just a travesty, because to my mind, and I know I'm not wrong, he was the finest guitarist I'd ever heard. He was just a hatter, just great guitar player. So he turned those oral fears.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so you're into heavy metal, but you've become like a storyteller guitarist. However, in heavy metal, there is a lot of storytelling, and like the kind of Smoke on the Water is this, it's kind of this, everyone kind of, oh, I heard of something, it's like this bog standard rock, something that tells like this real story of the thing that happened, or Iron Maiden and kind of all, Led Zeppelin, or all this kind of like various, they are all medieval Golem, the Evil One,
Randall on and the Battle of Evermore. Or is it the Number of the Beast for Iron Maiden? Yeah, stuff like that. Woe to you who work at sea. The devil sends the beast with wrath, because he knows the time is short. Let him who hath understanding reckon the number of the beast, for it is a human number. His number was 666. Exactly. Well, you're right. I don't know if that's where that came from, though. I think that I was playing folk guitar with friends, and Dylan and all of those guys were quite a big influence, and we had a couple of little folk bands go on playing a parky session, the various pubs, and then my friends Sash and Johnny, we went over to the UK and played some gigs to a huge response.
Wait a minute, suddenly you're just kind of like listening to Deep Purple and then playing some acoustic songs, and then you're like, oh, I just went over to the UK and played some
So that was always there. I think I always wanted to be a rock guitarist, but I don't think I was good enough to, make that,
that commitment to the Marshall.
Oh no, I love the Marshall, and but I sold my Marshall to buy a Nathan, which is probably quite a big deal. It was like I felt that it was going to go in that direction, but I didn't sell Les Paul. No, so some things you might like call it.
No.
But I did sell the Marshall to buy an old Maton from that really seedy hop shop in Victoria Park. Esmeralda's Ox Shop.
Oh, right.
Yeah, beautiful, which I've still got.
There's only one seedy hock shop when I was in Bath.
Yeah,
No, Victoria.
Is that it? Is it still going?
I don't know, but
It had a whole.
I'm sure there's a lot of seedy hock shops in Victoria Park.
But yeah, so we played some gigs in the UK, which were really good, and I'll digress with this story. We were playing around in these pubs, and we were sleeping in the most unbelievably unsanitary accommodation that they gave us. They gave the pub that we did a few gigs in, they said our accommodation was over the road in this bungalow that they had, which was actually a dentist's office, but the dentist had gone and all the equipment was still there, and it was horrible. When we slept on the floor, we went up to Edinburgh.
Do they have any laughing gas?
It didn't have any of that, just mold and the seat and stuff. But we went up to Edinburgh because we had a gig in Edinburgh as a time of the Fringe Festival, and when we got there, the gig at what is that? Not a big college town, and so we took the busking and hung out in Edinburgh for a while. But then we had a gig back at the Golden Lion, sitting in the dentist accommodation, and we went to dinner in this Indian restaurant, and when we walked in, there were three of us. And my friend's girlfriend and her friends had come with us. So there was an entourage, three of us disheveled Australians. And as we walked in, the maitre d' of the restaurant just ushered us straight out the back as if we had a table booked, and which we didn't. We thought that was odd. And then we thought maybe we were offending the rest of the clientele. So that's why he'd ushered us out of that. The reality was that the Counting Crows were having dinner out the back. He thought we were part of them. And so he put us on the table next to the Counting Crows. We didn't click who they were, but our singer Johnny went, "That's Adam de Bretts." And so we were telling these girls that they should come with us on the next leg of our hut tour because we had this lush accommodation. There was a spa bath and it was magnificent. And he was listening to this and thinking it was real, that we maybe were quite a good deal. That we were off to play in this luxurious accommodation. He came over and started chatting with us. And Johnny was all over their tour schedule and said, "So you guys are off to Glastonbury tomorrow?" He said, "Yeah, you guys should come." And we said, "Oh, we'd love to, Adam. We got a kid, mate." And he goes, "Yeah, I know what that's like." That was the night we had dinner with the Counting Crows.
Counting Crows?
Yeah.
What year is this? There are
2004 4 maybe,
Yeah.
something like that. Yeah, it was a very successful tour.
So that's a lot. Huh?
Yeah,
What stuff were you playing on this tour?
covers, covers, and we were playing Widows and Widows. I can't remember what else. Widows, maybe some really obscure Tom Petty. Um,
On a European tour.
it was just Wales, and it did in Scotland, like that dancer. Oh, I had 2 kids in England. Yeah, it was, yeah. I mean, even he thought it was big, and I told you actually it was.
So did Adam Durex.
Exactly, but he thought we had a spa in our accommodation. Yeah, but it was great. It was great, and we had a time, and I was just sort of transiting to Broome. I've lived there for a couple of years. I was playing the kind of restaurant circuit in Broome, which I'm really grateful for. When I arrived just at the right time, it was a melting hot. The brand new day era had just kind of finished. The kid rooms were starting to be a really big deal, and I was working every night of the week in various venues around.
What had drawn you to Broome initially?
I was at WAPA, and I did the diploma in production and design majoring in sound, and part of the last year was you had to go and second yourself for 3 months somewhere in the industry, recording studio in Geneva or something like that, or whoever would take you. Planet Studios was one, but Rick Vanvel was my concert sound lecturer, and he'd just come off the road with Brand New Day, and I said to him, "Is there a sound company in Bruges?" Because I just went to lie on the beach for 3 months at winter in Perth. And he said, there's Tropo Sound, and I'll see if they'll take you for your secondment. And so I didn't really think any more of it. The next time he had class, he said, I've rung Nick Connolly, he's going to take you on for 3 months. So I headed to Broome, ostensibly to slack off, really, and just do whatever jobs they had for me to do. But it was actually the most incredible thing I got to work with, the most incredible. Because Broome was on the circuit, you listen to stories of Chisel and the Oils and Angels when they were on the Australian version of the Chipwin circuit, which was you cut a record and then you put it on the road 350 days of the year. Broome was still on that circuit, so the Jets were coming through, Chang, and whoever else was coming through. So I accidentally landed in this amazing spot where I was doing dog's body sound every night of the week, and ended up working for like Neil Murray and Titters and Mick Fideli's band at the time, Power Shift, yeah, and Painters and Dockers, all of these great bands, and an offshoot of Rose Tattoo, which was their original guitarist, called Rock and Rob Wiley. Have you ever heard?
Yeah.
Blazing his slippers.
He used to have like his guitar was the BB logo.
Yeah,
on his guitar.
And played beautiful mandolin. And his hit, which I don't think it was ever a hit, was a song called Rock and Rob Riley from Adelaide. But he'd wear slippers, these tartan slippers on stage. He'd be in his rock and roll attire.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was a big lad, and he wrote a lot of those Rose Tattoo gets like branded and Scarred for Life. He wrote him, but then I think they asked him. So he was touring Australia in this like Gemini, doing hits for this tattoo with a full band, and he was Rock and Rob Riley with his VB guitar and his slitters. Yeah, it was hilarious, but fantastic. Fantastic. So yeah, I stayed at there in Broome 3 and left and wanted to go that. Just felt like I hadn't finished. And then my friend Mark Jones was doing camera for Melbourne Overs. And Mark wanted to chase a girl to London, and I just finished Water. And he said, do you want to take over my position catching crocodiles, swans, doing camera sound, which I thought would be, what's this, and booms and stuff. But doing sound for Malcolm Douglas was plugging a microphone into a camera, leaving it on the floor of a boat. And it's just, that is the song title of doing camera sound. But I worked for him, and I just went back and forth. And then I came out of the long-term relationship, and felt that it was time for change. And I went out to Broome and guitar on my back and landed on my feet. I sound picks and started playing guitar.
You have a Broome song?
Yeah.
I just feel like
it just could be appropriate.
So, for those of you who don't know the history of this, I'll try and really trim it down because it's long. But Broome a pearling town, and most of the divers that dive for the shell were Japanese. And this year we lost the last Japanese diver, the very last one. Akira Masudo was his name. And this is a story about a Japanese fighter pilot who was shot down in the air raid over Broome on March the 3rd, 1942. True story. His name was Osamu Kudo, and he was never found. His Zero was last seen trailing smoke as it headed north towards Willie Creek, and it was never seen again. And the song comes from a story that I was told by an old Bardi man called Tom Wigan, who told me that just before World War II happened, or broke, or the Japanese joined World War II, that a lot of the pearl divers left Broome and they headed home because they knew it was coming. And some of them joined up, and that all the fighter pilots who flew the raid on Broome on March the 3rd, 1942, 9 zeros, every one of them were pearl divers from Broome who'd returned to send it to the bottom of the water. And whether or not it's a true story, we'll never really know yet. But this is a story, through his eyes at least, of what happened to Kudo. So picture yourselves in Broome, 1940, before anything really went down. Picture the dusty streets, coconut trees, the smell of frangipanis, 500 pearl luggers dotted along the coast there, coming in at night time, sailing in at night, the old jetty at Town Beach that's spread out to watch near coast of the moon, a really quiet, beautiful little place. And then all hell breaks loose.
Sunsets on Bossett Creek, luggers drop the sails for the night. No more diving now, the war has come. Young men leave from Broome to join the fight. And over Java Way, Nippon joins the fray. Dutch, they leave their homes for a new life. Kudo from Yokohama, diver on the lugger, B-21. Leaves Roebuck Bay for the motherland, diver born to fly for the rising sun. But how could they know that life would lie beneath the waves? Everything be dust when the day is done. But Kudo, how'd you tell? Did they gather on the beach to bid you farewell? Did you know that you'd return to make the ocean burn? Send old Broome straight to hell. Kudo, Kudo-san, fly, children cry, Kudo flies in flames, plucked from the sky with a single gun. Kudo, who's your lover? Is she a geisha from Sheba Lane, an Eastern mom? And was she quick enough to get out when the soldiers came about and took them all away to Cowra? Kudo, where's your mother? Is she praying in a temple in Yokohama for a boy so far away, shot down in Roebuck Bay, laying down his world for the emperor? Fly on, on your broken wings. Fly on your broken wings. Fly
I heard an interview you did on ABC Kimberley. Oh, yeah, about that song. Yeah. Yeah. Oh. And yeah, it's quite. What's it like to immerse yourself in a theme and a character like that, and also to imagine the character's background and normal future?
Yeah. Yeah, that's great. There's a few of these songs that that I don't really take. Oh, it sounds so corny, but I don't really somehow take responsibility for them. Because when I play them, I see it in a movie. And Kudo is really one of them. I was obsessed with this story for a long time, and one of my passions is history, particularly broom history, and one of my quests is to find Kudo's playing because it's never been found. And with that in mind, I was sitting at the broom markets one Saturday morning with my dobro guitar, and that riff came to me, and the closing line, "Fly Home," and I assumed that that was going to be my Saturday morning song that I will write every Saturday morning, but it never came back ever again. And I tried to force it, like sit down, and it would not come back. It sounded like crap. And it sounds ridiculous, but I don't actually remember finishing the song itself. Though obviously I must have, but I don't remember when it certainly wasn't at the markets. It would have just been a verse here and then, a verse here and then. We recorded it like 3 times. And each time we'd record it, and then I'd go back to Broome, and then when I come back, because I recorded all this with Dave Marrick and Margaret River, so the next year I'd come back, let's have a listen to that to see. And then we changed it so much that the first recording was superfluous. We get rid of it, and we did it 3 times before we ended up with the one that's on the album. And it wasn't until James Newhouse got hold of it, and we'd laid all these instruments over it, and James Newhouse is like this master of puppets, pulled all the good stuff out of it and made it what it is now. To immerse myself in that story is probably the most immersive, as I do really go into it and I can see it like an old James Cagney movie unfolding, because the story hasn't finished. That's probably the beauty of it. The story hasn't finished. No one knows where he is. All they know is he got promoted to sergeant when he crashed, because that was a big thing with the Japanese. If you killed yourself, you got promotion.
Well, all works out the end.
Huge career move. Yeah. So he got promoted to flight sergeant, but no one knows what one of his someone else in the squadron claimed to have seen him ditch deliberately. But you start to think of the humanity of the guy. He was 28 years old. His plane was riddled with bullets from a freak, a freak encounter with this really pissed off Dutchman called Gus Winkle, who had just landed on the airstrip in his Lockheed Lodestyle, to like a stretched out Cessna, and come in from Java, and he was very fond of the plane. And Kudo had blown it up as he came down the runway, because they were completely unchallenged by the army that were there, because they thought the Japanese had never reached Brune. The Japanese were so chilled about their attack of Brune that they had their canopies pulled back and they were just cruising around nonchalant, flying around and blowing up things. And Gus Winkle had pulled a machine gun out of this plane and had set himself up on a 44-gun drum. And when Kudo came down the airstrip at treetop level, very nonchalantly, he said, Gus Winkle, and I spoke to him before he died, he said, both pilots made eye contact with each other. And Kudo shook his head at him as if to say, don't. And he fired the gun over his arm, big cold 30 caliber machine gun. He fired it over his arm as the Zero went overhead and hit it. And that was the last we saw of it. The base of trailed smoke, whether he was hit. But I'd like to think that he was just a kid who just went, I just want to go home. And so he just turned north and tried to get home. And the old bravery of the kamikaze and all of that wasn't in his head. He was just a young man who'd left his lover behind in Shida Lane, and he just wanted to get home. Yeah, he never made it. But the story is still open, which is gorgeous.
Yeah. When did you meet the songwriter that you are, or are you still meeting him?
How is it? She's like great Christians. When I first started playing my own music publicly, I had a manager for a while. Her name was Tanya Berry, and it is Tanya Berry, this is my bed. And I had a song from the first album that I would play. I used to do a gig at the Cable Beach Sunset Bar 3 nights a week, to a packed house. There'd be 500 people there. They were all looking at the sunset. And I was kind of in the corner like the piano man. But I had friends who would say, you got to play your own music, you got to play your own music. But I was terrified too, because I'd found that in the past, if I'd say, I'm going to play an original song now, they'd all go to the bar. So what I used to do was I'd claim that somebody else had written them, and then people would stick around. And I claimed that Martin Knopfler wrote most of the first songs on the album. So this is a song by Martin Knopfler, and then I play one of mine, and people go, it's a pretty shit song, Martin Knopfler, though. What happened to Sultans of Swing?
Yeah, there's hardly money for nothing, isn't it?
And then I started playing one of them under my own name, and it got a good response. And I was like, wow, okay, that's cool. And we recorded that first album, and I started just playing my own stuff, and then some obscure stuff that, no one would really know, the obscure Chris Bailey songs. Or one of my biggest influences, a Welsh band called The Alarm. It's got a singer called Mike Peters, and their hair, those. Yeah. Like my friend Jody says, it's the Steve Martin Fright Week. He is Spike again. But I love The Alarm. I play a couple of their songs. And through original music, this scheme, I saw it completely differently for the first time. I actually saw it as a tool, as opposed to a thing that I just enjoyed getting hold of. I saw it as this magical tool together with it, and it could create stuff, you know. And when I made that first record, it came along right at the time of the Prices Point conflict, and music was a huge, as it always is in protest, it was a huge vehicle. And I was in the right place at the right time, and I got invited to perform on some of these big stages with some of the bigger names, and surely because I was an original musician suddenly, although I didn't really feel like I had any right to be there. But like, you know, we played on a yacht. Alan Pigram is this man who knows everybody in the music industry, and he summoned them all to come and play. And the Shire, who were very pro-gas, wouldn't let us put on a gig anywhere, so we took it to the sea. It was a brilliant incentive. And the Karma 4, which is this huge catamaran in Broome, we moored it. Well, I just went and played, but we moored it in the breakers of Cable Beach, and then invited everybody out of town for a free concert. And the government had said, if you get 5,000 people at one of your rallies, we'll start paying attention. So wave it. Bigwigs on the East Coast. So they all came, and I found myself on the deck of this ship, playing my first album with Rob Hurst playing drums for. Wow, that throws you a curve, you know. And I was incredibly lucky. And then I'm friends with Missy Higgins. She flew us over for an environmental gig only in Melbourne, and so we opened that gig. And then we were sort of rubbing shoulders with Shane Howard and other people. Shane is one I've got to play with him a few times since then. And so I guess to answer your question, the songwriter owned his own shit in 2011 when that album came out. That's when I started owning that. But it's only recently that I've comically calling myself a songwriter by trade, which is one of Chris Bailey's lines, you know, it's like, I am a songwriter by trade. I make fuck all, but I am a songwriter by trade. But luckily I've got some other feathers in my hat. And I've got obviously a long way to go. But some of these songs I'm really proud of. I should also mention they were all done with Dave Mann, who's this most amazing producer, musician, and he's contributed everything to most of the songs. So, yes.
Yeah, he's so cool. Puppetry during the church. Specifically when you brought up Dave Mann, there's sacred sacrament for you.
Yeah, that's right. It's the ringing of a triangle.
Yeah. Yeah, so we had a great collaboration. And so you have like 3 albums in space of 11, 12 years.
Yeah.
What?
One of which was nominated for Australian Music Prize. Province. There it is.
That's a
I mean, that sounds great. It's on the bio, you know, but anyone can do it. You just ring up and go, I nominate this record.
It's not that easy.
Is it?
No, there's a short list, and
Well, I don't think I made the shortlist.
took it down. Where did it?
Yeah, yes.
so. What evolution do you see of yourself in the 3 albums? So much like really committed storytelling over like a decade or so.
Probably more confidence, I think. Probably more confidence. And more of an ease to own it. And I do think that comes from, again, it sounds so pretentious, and I certainly don't mean it to.
But this is what the interview is. We're talking about your art.
Okay, yeah.
This is the thing, and something I find about interviewing musicians from all over the world, and Australian musicians or West Australian musicians is modesty.
Okay.
And I think when when you've got to the point where you're releasing and doing something and people want to talk to you about it, by all means, toilet it out your art. Be a bit pretentious if need be, because it's precious.
Okay, yeah, sure. I'll be pretentious. Well, I think owning it and having more confidence, because I feel to a certain degree that I've paid my dues. I've played the shittest gigs in the shittest bands to the shittest people. And then I've played some gold, so I've kind of done the full spectrum. And I think one of the times that it really came home that I kind of earned it a bit was we played the National Folk Festival, and there was myself and Dave Mann and Guy Gowson Jr. And is he here? Yeah. Oh no.
See that guy over there? Watch out, there'll be fry machines.
No, it's too busy hacking Gina's Facebook.
So we and a guy played on the first row as well, and I didn't have got anywhere without his amazing support. It's been gorgeous. This is what I was talking about, Broomini, a writing of the melting pot of Bill. But we played the National Folk Festival, and it was just stunning. Bunda Albert was with us. He was kind of like the older statesman of our troupe, and they all came to see him, and we played some beautiful gigs. And I remember just being in the green room with the cream of Australian folk and eating sandwiches with Geordie Lane, and we're chatting about music. And literally we had to bust it, move to get out of there on the red eye. 2 nights later, I was playing that Branding Iron Bar of the Roebuck by the hotel. And I'm full of exaltation because we're just quite in this premier music festival. And not joking, there were 3 people in the bar, one of which was the security guy, and the other 2 were 2 girls who were playing pool. You couldn't script this. I played a couple songs, and one of the girls came over and she said, "Could you play horses?"
But the horses, I think you could script, but it's the other, yeah.
It was the complete antithesis, and that was where they come from. And it threw me such a wallop. It would. But I also then got onto Google because I saw a very similar scenario where Passenger, Mike Rosenberg, had played Pink Pop in Holland, and that's where he made it. Obviously, a DJ who plays the songs. They all went to his gig, and they're all singing his songs, and there's 30,000 people there. And then I scrolled on, and there's him in Central Park in America, and he's just got a PA like this, and that's 4 people on the crowds, and it's like, oh, it happens for everyone.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that was kind of gorgeous. It was like, no one was ever going to tell you this. This is what you can expect. You have to kind of work it out for yourself. There's no school, and I really kind of love that. So the longer I'd done this, the more schooling I'd had with these little snippets of gold classic television in the bar. And you turn this off during my set, and we can't, or the jukeboxes out in the corner. These are all the gold that makes it. My friend Harry Jackamara, his debut album is called Hit the Ground, and he played at the Broom RSL. He had a regular gig there, and he's the most incredible musician. He had this 12-string national baritone steel body guitar made for him, and then he would teach you. That was the most insane thing he could play. So to have him play at Broomy RSL was quite a waste. But anyway, he's playing a gig there, and he's playing one of his own incredible compositions. And he looks down, and the barman has slid a coaster onto the stage, and written in bold outline, it says, "Stop playing your own music. You need to play what we want to hear. We like Creedence Clearwater Revival." Now, I would have left the stage there and gone, he was racked. He was giggling and racked, and he took a photo of it, and it became the art on CD of his album. And it's like, there you go, you've had it as well. He went on, Jeff Lay produced his next album, all this like, these gorgeous little snippets of reality, and keep coming home to take it away from So I think to answer what they say, I've got more confident, and I think I'm a better storyteller. This last out of the feet, I'm pretty proud of what we did. I would never say, oh, wow, we nailed it, because there's lots of work going on. The muse isn't with me at the moment, which is gorgeous. There's no panic because now I understand what she's all about. For me, she's a weird seraphim creature, and I'll know when she comes. And
But you're not panicked.
not panicked, but I have been. I've read in Vol Kelly's book where he's just like, one more song. I just want one more song, and he needs that one more song. I remember Dave Mann saying 10 years ago, I dried up. I've got nothing. And then I saw an interview with Dave Gilmore who says artists must have great periods of fallow, and so you can relax. Basically, it doesn't mean we're finished. But for me, I've deciphered that she's just not around at the movie, and maybe I need a heartbreak or need to be seriously hungover to come up with something. And then I think I mentioned Susan O'Neill, this artist I saw at Nana. I completely believe that she's just channeling the news 24/7. Like her music is just like this glow around. There must be people who just don't have any problem use to come to a guitar, pick it up, and it's there. But I'm starting imitating the young able, which is unbelievable. Can't try. You just butter it up.
Yeah. So with that in mind, what's your focus with this year?
Write 3 hours. I actually am working off an album of 10 events in Broome history, which I've already got 3 of those songs. I need another 7, and then we're gonna put on the. I like performance of it on a regular basis.
Okay. So what that unlocks when you get the theme and
Yeah, well, I don't think that's going to be so much of a problem for me because it's not my story. It's a me says. It's more like, I mean, I'm sure I would just not add it. I started writing a song about this diver called William Webber, who the West Australian government brought their 6 divers from England to show that the Asians couldn't dive. It's part of the White Australia policy. And they all died, or less than die. And one of them was this liquid best diver in the world, the pride of the naval fleet, called William Webber, who was the first to drop dead. And so he's my first target doing a song about him. I've had a bit of trouble with him. I had a couple of verses that have gone, and I realized that she wasn't here yet. But sometime, I think it'll come around June when I go back to Broome and the weather calls. It always has to be dry season as well. I hadn't written much down here. Maybe in the Winsrow wood, but I know that for me, that's it'll be about 11 o'clock in the morning when she comes, and it'll be a cool day and very still, and it has to be a coffee involved, and then those are the material things, and one of the things being nearby. And the other thing is I don't write a downing, or I don't write. You don't know. No, I will try and record. If she comes by, I was trying to explain this in some way, if she comes by when I've got something, I'll try and reach for the iPhone and get the voice record, oftentimes and miss it. But if you do manage to grab it, it's like catchy tea bell in a jar. When you play it back, it doesn't sound anything like it, but it might be enough of a call.
so it's kind of like to stop and start.
Yeah.
This is breaking it up.
But by breaking it, she flies on. So I know that it won't happen until those visible elements in play and the internal elements.
Okay.
Something like that.
It sounds like a good year.
Yeah. Oh, it's got right.
Yeah. Well, we've kind of reached, it's almost 10 o'clock. So what we'll do.
We've been here that long.
Yeah. So I think we'll just have one more song and come back and bid our farewells.
I'll do this Celtic song for you. I come from Wales. There's a river that spans the between Wales and Britain is this river called the Severn, with an ER, Severn, and it spans this bridge spans the Severn River. It's a very ugly river. I'm sure it's really beautiful upstream, but where the bridge goes over, it's very, very ugly. It's just miles of mud. In the 90s, it rose to fame when the guitarist from a Welsh band called the Manic Street Preachers threw himself off it. His name was Richie Edwards. And this is a song from the album. It's called "The Bridge of the River Severn," and it's basically it's written about the arts. It's written about the victims of the arts, and dedicated to one of my biggest influences, a guy called Paul Kossoff, who was a guitar player in a band called Free in the 60s. He was one of the first victims of addiction, and there was no such thing as rehab or anything. It's got the better of him. And I'm sure we all know people who've gone in one end and haven't come out the other.
When I first drank wine with you, we were laughing. You could have lived this smile on the Donington air. And you told me how you used to chase the dragon. You told me as your hands swam through my hair. Well, 3 years come and gone in the window crying, with your silver spoon tucked in your silver sleeve. And how I had to leave the room to stop from crying, because I knew that you were on the streets again, riding your white horse down an old street again. I held you to my head. You said, please don't leave me here, 'cause 2,000 pounds might break my bones. I cried, I couldn't stay. Cried and led you away. And then I walked out in the rain and headed for the hills again. And the stormy winter froze me to my bones. Well, I worked the winter months to raise your bounty, and I dug the golden mile from end to end, and I worked my passage on the good ship Bounty, because I'd heard that you sailed for Wales again, sailing on your tall ships to the motherland again, searching for you from the Gwyn Valley to the rugged cliffs of Carriageway. But I rang everyone picture. We fell into the muddy water. Bridge on the river Severn took you away. So I drank some wine that day. I left, got underway, and then I caught the last train for London.
Thank you. Well, Richie Edwards, Mount Street Preachers, From Despair to Where.
Oh, that's spoken to you forever. That's it.
Yeah. That was sung by the
Where to where?
great song and ultimately very sadly fitting.
Yeah. Totally.
So that it has been a wonderful chat. Finally, thank you so much. You finally got to do it, and that you contacted me saying I'm going to be here after Nan Up and everything, and we were like get down and boogie.
Yeah.
And we did. So, ladies and gentlemen, and everybody, please thank Wil Thomas. You. Awesome. It's so awesome. Yeah, it's good fun. I told you it's like a sort of comfortable afternoon on the psychiatrist's couch, combined with your 21st, and everyone's all wants to hear your speeches.
I was kind of picturing more sort of Parkinson, and all the Elvis Costello part.
God. Yeah, no, I go between sort of, I don't know, Letterman, Denton, Meldrum, Ellen DeGeneres.
Yeah, great. You know that. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, it's been a pleasure.